I've been in this game for 50 years, and the last thing I ever thought about was having my hands in.
Did you know that one of Hollywood's most beloved actresses was brutally attacked by her own daughter? Katherine Ross, wife of legendary actor Sam Elliott, faced a shocking betrayal that left both fans and the media stunned. What could possibly drive a daughter to such a violent act against her own mother? Join us as we uncover the full story behind this disturbing, real-life Hollywood drama. From Hollywood to stage. Katherine Ross was born on January 29, 1940, in Hollywood, California. Growing up right in the center of the entertainment world, it might seem like her path to acting was obvious. But like many people who go on to do great things, her early life was far from steady. Even though she was surrounded by the glamour of the movie industry, her childhood was filled with a lot of moving around. Katherine's family didn't stay in one place for long. They moved often across different parts of California. Katherine's introduction to acting came after high school when she enrolled at Santa Rosa Junior College. Located in Northern California, this school gave her the first real chance to explore acting on stage. It wasn't glamorous, and it certainly wasn't the fast track to fame. But it was here that Katherine got her first taste of performing in front of an audience. She started taking acting classes and participating in small productions. These early experiences were important because they helped her decide that acting wasn't just a passing interest. It was something she wanted to do with her life. After a short time at Santa Rosa Junior College, Katherine knew she needed to go deeper if she wanted to become a serious actress. That's when she made the decision to transfer to San Francisco State University. San Francisco at that time was a growing center for creativity, especially in the world of theater. It was a city full of young people exploring new ideas in art, politics, and performance. At San Francisco State, Katherine really threw herself into the world of theater. She didn't just want to stand on a stage and say lines. She wanted to become the characters she played. This was during a time when method acting was becoming popular. Method acting taught actors to really connect emotionally with their characters, sometimes using personal memories to help bring out deep feelings in a performance. Katherine took to this method naturally. It matched her thoughtful, quiet personality and allowed her to express deep emotions in a way that felt true to her. But Katherine's rise wasn't quick or easy, and her big break came in a way she never expected. Rise to movie fame. Katherine Ross didn't become a star overnight. Like many actors, she started small, taking any opportunity she could find to build her experience. In the early 1960s, she began appearing in television shows, often in roles that didn't even credit her by name. She worked on series like Wagon Train and The Alfred Hitchcock Hour, learning how the television industry worked while sharpening her skills on screen. These parts were small, sometimes only giving her a few lines or background moments, but they gave her valuable experience. What made this time in her career important was that she didn't let the size of the roles discourage her. Even though Hollywood often saw her as just a pretty face, she kept showing up, ready to work, ready to improve. She didn't complain about being given decorative roles that didn't challenge her much. Instead, she used every role, no matter how small, to practice. She paid attention on set, learning from directors and more experienced actors. She was preparing herself for something bigger, even if it wasn't clear yet when that opportunity would come. That opportunity finally arrived in 1967 when Katherine Ross was cast in The Graduate. This was the turning point, the moment when everything changed. In The Graduate, she played Elaine Robinson, a young woman caught between the expectations of her family and her own search for meaning. The movie was a massive success. It didn't just make money. It became one of the defining films of the 1960s. Katherine's role earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Practically overnight, she went from being a hardworking but mostly unknown actress to someone everyone in Hollywood wanted to work with. More importantly, critics took her seriously. She was no longer just another pretty actress. She was seen as someone with real talent and emotional depth. The success of The Graduate opened doors to bigger and more meaningful projects. Katherine entered what many people would call her golden years in Hollywood. In 1969, she starred in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, one of the most beloved Western films of all time. Acting alongside legends like Paul Newman and Robert Redford, Katherine played Etta Place, a woman in love with an outlaw but fully aware of the risks that life brings. Even with such famous co-stars, Katherine held her own. Her scenes brought softness and emotion to a movie filled with adventure and danger. Later that same year, Katherine took on a completely different kind of role in Tell Them Willie Boy Is Here. In this film, she played Lola, a Native American woman in love with a man being hunted by the law. The role was complex and emotional, and Katherine delivered one of her most powerful performances. The film dealt with hard topics like prejudice, injustice, and survival. For her work in the movie, she won the BAFTA Award for Best Actress, showing that her talents were recognized not just in America, but around the world. Katherine continued to take on challenging roles throughout the 1970s. In 1975, she starred in The Stepford Wives, a movie with a very different tone but just as much meaning. This film told the story of a suburban town where women were being replaced by robots to make them into the perfect wives. Katherine's performance was intense, smart, and full of the strength that had now become her trademark. Another standout moment in her career came in 1976 with Voyage of the Damned, a historical drama based on the real story of Jewish refugees fleeing Nazi Germany. This role required Katherine to go even deeper emotionally, stepping into the shoes of someone experiencing unimaginable fear and uncertainty. The film gave her a chance to show her ability to handle serious historical material with care and sensitivity. By the end of the 1970s, Katherine Ross had proven she wasn't just a Hollywood star. She was a serious actress who took on roles that mattered. Her career was built not just on beauty, but on thoughtful choices and deep emotional work. But while Katherine's career was reaching new heights, her personal life was about to become just as dramatic, and not always in ways she could control. Love, loss, and marriage. While Katherine Ross's professional life in the 1960s and 1970s was marked by success and rising stardom, her personal life was far more complicated. Relationships and marriages came and went, and for many years it seemed like she was searching for something she couldn't quite find. Behind the fame, she was just a person trying to figure out love and stability like anyone else. Katherine's first marriage happened early in her career. In 1960, she married Joel Fabiani, an actor who, like her, was just starting out in Hollywood. Their relationship was likely shaped by their shared dreams of making it in the entertainment industry. However, Hollywood life comes with its own challenges, pressure, long work hours, and the constant push to succeed. This early marriage didn't last long. After just 2 years, Katherine and Joel divorced in 1962. Looking back, it's easy to see that both of them were still finding their way, not only in their careers, but also in their personal lives. Only a couple of years later, Katherine married again. In 1964, she tied the knot with John Marion. This relationship also didn't bring her the kind of stability she wanted. Like the first, this second marriage was brief, lasting only about 3 years before ending in divorce in 1967. During this time, Katherine's career was beginning to take off, thanks to roles like Elaine in The Graduate, which meant she was spending more and more time working. It's possible that these early relationships couldn't stand up to the growing demands of her rising fame. As she gained success professionally, her personal life seemed to be more unsettled than ever. Then came Conrad Hall. Conrad wasn't just anyone. He was an Oscar-winning cinematographer, respected in the film industry for his incredible talent behind the camera. Katherine and Conrad met during the filming of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969, a project that turned into a major moment in both of their careers. Their relationship was passionate and meaningful. There was a real connection between them, likely built on their shared love of film and art. But even with that strong emotional bond, life in Hollywood makes personal relationships difficult. Both of them had demanding careers, and they often spent long periods apart due to work commitments. Those separations started to take their toll. After about 4 years of marriage, Katherine and Conrad divorced in 1973. Not long after, Katherine seemed to shift directions in her personal life. In 1974, she married Gaetano "Gano" Tom Lisi, who was a technician in the film industry rather than an actor or director. With Lisi, she may have been hoping for something quieter, something away from the constant noise of Hollywood. This marriage reflected a desire for a more grounded lifestyle. However, it still didn't work out. Even though it may have provided a different kind of life for a while, by 1979, the marriage was over. Once again, Katherine found herself searching for a stable relationship that could match the kind of life she wanted. Meeting Sam Elliott. Everything changed when she met Sam Elliott. Their first meeting was on the set of the 1978 horror movie The Legacy, filmed in England. At the time, Katherine was still married to Lisi, but there was clearly a connection between her and Sam. Elliot himself was not yet the icon he would become, but he was steadily building his own career. Unlike many of the people Katherine had been involved with before, Sam Elliott had a calm, steady nature and a way of handling fame with quiet confidence. By 1979, after her divorce from Lisi was finalized, Katherine and Sam's relationship became serious. It was clear that something about this relationship was different from the ones that came before. Katherine was older by now, more experienced, and maybe more certain about what she wanted. And Sam Elliott, with his grounded personality and straightforward view on life, offered something steady that she hadn't yet found in her previous marriages. Katherine and Sam were together for several years before deciding to get married. In 1984, they officially tied the knot, and soon after, they welcomed their daughter, Cleo Rose Elliott, into the world. Cleo's birth marked a major shift for Katherine. Not only was she now part of a stable marriage, but she was also a mother, ready to focus more on family than just work. Unlike Katherine's earlier relationships, her marriage to Sam Elliott was kept largely out of the public spotlight. The two chose to live a quieter life away from the constant attention of Hollywood. They moved to Malibu, California, where they focused on raising Cleo and supporting each other's careers in a balanced way. Over the years, the relationship between Katherine and Sam has been viewed by many as one of the stronger and more private marriages in Hollywood. They supported each other's successes, while managing to avoid much of the gossip and attention that can often damage celebrity relationships. Of course, like all marriages, theirs hasn't been perfect. Raising a family and managing two demanding careers brought challenges. At times, there were reports of disagreements, particularly related to raising their daughter Cleo, who later became a musician. Despite those occasional struggles, Katherine and Sam stayed together through it all. Their marriage became the foundation of her personal life, a contrast to the earlier years of unstable relationships. By the mid-1980s, Katherine had not only achieved major success in her acting career, but had also finally found the steady, loving relationship she'd long been seeking. After so many years of searching, Katherine Ross seemed to have found exactly what she needed in both love and life with Sam Elliott. But even with a steady marriage and family, Katherine's life still had more turns to come, including some unexpected challenges in the years ahead. Cleo Rose Elliott. Cleo Rose Elliott was born into a life that many might call privileged, but that privilege came with its own unique pressures. As the only child of two famous Hollywood actors, Katherine Ross and Sam Elliott, Cleo grew up surrounded by fame, creativity, and expectation. But unlike many celebrity children who are often thrust into the public spotlight from a young age, Cleo's parents took a different approach. They chose to raise her in a quieter environment, away from the constant flashes of cameras and red carpet events. Living in Malibu, California, Cleo was largely shielded from the full force of Hollywood's public frenzy during her childhood. Even though her family was famous, Cleo's upbringing was more private than people might expect. She did attend public events with her parents from time to time, showing up at film premieres and award shows, smiling next to her mother and father. But behind those smiling photos, not everything was perfect. Still, at that point, any personal struggles or family tensions were hidden from the public eye. From a young age, Cleo showed a natural interest in the arts. But instead of following directly in her parents' footsteps and choosing acting, she leaned toward music. Cleo started out with classical musical training, learning how to sing and perform with control and skill. Over time, however, she moved away from classical music and developed a love for rock music. She wanted to carve her own path, one that wasn't just a reflection of her parents' success, but something uniquely hers. By the time she reached her teenage years, she had fully embraced her musical ambitions. For Cleo, being the daughter of two highly respected actors wasn't always easy. There was an unspoken pressure that came with being born into what some people called Hollywood royalty. With Katherine Ross's Oscar nomination and Sam Elliott's respected career in film and television, people naturally expected Cleo to live up to a certain standard. That kind of expectation can be hard for anyone to carry, especially for a young person trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do in life. One of the biggest challenges Cleo faced growing up was living in the shadow of her parents' fame, while also wanting to be independent. Choosing a career in music was part of that independence. While her parents were involved in storytelling through acting, Cleo's focus was on expressing herself through songwriting and singing. This difference in artistic focus sometimes created a gap between Cleo and her parents, especially with her mother, Katherine. As Cleo got older, the normal struggles between parents and children started to grow into something more serious. Like many young adults, Cleo wanted control over her own life and choices. That drive for independence sometimes clashed with her family's ideas about responsibility, career, and public behavior. Reports would later reveal that there were periods of significant tension between Cleo and her mother. These family dynamics, love mixed with frustration and connection mixed with rebellion, were complicated, especially given their celebrity status. But the real turning point in Cleo's story and the family's relationship was still ahead, bringing with it both public attention and personal heartbreak. When violence strikes home. By 2010, Katherine Ross was living a life that many would assume was peaceful. Behind that image of a stable Hollywood family, there were long-running personal struggles that most people didn't know about. Katherine's relationship with her daughter Cleo had been strained for many years. Tensions had been building over time, sometimes simmering quietly, other times breaking into open arguments. What began as typical disagreements between a mother and daughter slowly grew into something more serious. Friends and sources close to the family later revealed that Katherine and Cleo often argued. These weren't just small fights over everyday things. They were emotional, heated, and hard to resolve. Some described their relationship as having escalating tensions as Cleo moved further into adulthood. Cleo, at that point 26 years old, was pushing for more independence, especially as she worked to establish her career in music. Katherine, on the other hand, may have had concerns about the choices her daughter was making, or simply about the emotional distance growing between them. What's clear is that these tensions didn't start suddenly. They had been building for a long time. Despite the arguments and challenges at home, the Elliott family tried to keep their private life out of the public eye. They lived quietly in Malibu, rarely appearing in the tabloids, and both Katherine and Sam had built reputations for avoiding unnecessary publicity. For years, any difficulties between Katherine and Cleo stayed behind closed doors. But in March 2010, everything changed in a sudden, violent way, and the private struggles of this Hollywood family were thrown into public view. On March 2nd, 2010, an argument between Katherine and Cleo exploded into violence. The fight took place in the home they shared in Malibu. The details that later came out in court documents were disturbing. According to Katherine, the argument quickly turned dangerous when Cleo began making threats to kill her. These weren't vague threats said in anger. According to her mother, Cleo was serious and aggressive. Then, in a moment of shocking violence, Cleo grabbed a pair of scissors and attacked. Katherine, 70 years old at the time, was stabbed repeatedly in the arm. The scissors left multiple puncture wounds, causing physical pain and deep emotional trauma. The suddenness of the attack likely made it even harder to process. Imagine living with someone you love, only to have them turn violent in a moment of rage. It was terrifying for Katherine, who had spent years trying to maintain her family and her privacy. Even more heartbreaking was the fact that this violence was coming not from a stranger, but from her own daughter. One of the most striking things about this incident was that Sam Elliott, Katherine's husband and Cleo's father, was not mentioned in any of the police or court reports. There were no public details about where Sam was at the time or how he responded in the immediate aftermath. That absence made the event seem even more isolated for Katherine. In that moment, it was just her, alone, facing this terrifying situation. After the attack, Katherine did what she had to do to protect herself. She called the authorities and quickly took legal action. Within a short time, she filed for an emergency restraining order against Cleo. The documents filed with the court gave the world a clearer picture of just how serious the situation was. Katherine explained in the paperwork that she feared for her life. One powerful statement from her stood out. "I fear for my life if my daughter is allowed to come near me." Those words painted a devastating picture of just how far their relationship had fallen. This wasn't just a bad argument. It was a deep fracture between a mother and daughter that had now turned into a legal crisis. The restraining order laid out strict terms. It required Cleo to stay at least 100 yards away from her mother's home, her workplace, and her car. It also made it clear that any contact, either in person, by phone, or electronically, was strictly forbidden. The court took Katherine's fears seriously, granting the order to protect her from any further violence or threats. For a woman who had spent her entire life working in the public eye, known for graceful and elegant performances, this was a deeply painful moment. Katherine Ross, remembered for her poise in films like The Graduate and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, was now in the headlines not for her career, but for being the victim of a violent attack by her own child. The news of the stabbing shocked both Hollywood and the public. Many couldn't believe that a family that had long seemed quiet and private was now facing such serious problems. It became a reminder that even families who seem to have it all from the outside can be struggling behind closed doors. Fame and success don't protect people from emotional pain, mental health issues, or broken family relationships. As for Cleo, this event marked a turning point in her public image. Up until that moment, she had mostly been seen as the child of Hollywood stars with ambitions in music. After the attack, however, her name became linked to violence and family conflict. The public didn't get to hear much about her side of the story during that time, and much of the focus stayed on Katherine's fear and the legal steps she took to protect herself. Even though the attack was one of the darkest moments in Katherine Ross's personal life, it wasn't the end of the story for her or her family. There were more chapters to come, with healing, challenges, and public curiosity continuing long after the headlines faded. Courtrooms and headlines. After the 2010 stabbing incident involving Katherine Ross and her daughter Cleo Rose Elliott, the legal system moved quickly to help protect Katherine. The first and most important step taken was securing a restraining order. A restraining order is a legal document issued by a court to help protect someone who feels they are in danger of being harmed by another person. In this case, it was a way for Katherine to make sure she had legal protection from her own daughter. The restraining order had very clear and strict terms. Cleo was required to stay at least 100 yards away from Katherine at all times. This distance applied not just to Katherine herself, but also to her home, her car, and her workplace. The order also made it very clear that Cleo was not allowed to contact Katherine in any way. This meant no phone calls, no text messages, no emails, and no contact through social media. It was a complete cutoff of communication, giving Katherine the space and security she needed after what she had gone through. The court granted the restraining order right away, showing how seriously the legal system took the situation. Once the judge approved the request, Cleo was officially notified. This meant that she was legally required to follow the terms of the order. If she broke any of those terms, she could be arrested or face further legal penalties. Restraining orders like this are designed to stop future violence before it happens, and they can be a powerful tool for victims of family violence. As soon as news of the incident and the restraining order became public, the story spread quickly. The media picked up the details, and soon it was being discussed on news outlets, in celebrity magazines, and across the internet. People were shocked by the story. Katherine Ross had long been seen as a calm, graceful figure in Hollywood. Her career had been marked by thoughtful performances, and she had always kept a low profile outside of her acting work. Suddenly, that image was being contrasted with something violent and deeply personal. Headlines didn't hold back. Many of them focused on the contrast between Katherine's glamorous career and the brutal reality of being attacked by her daughter. Phrases like Hollywood horror story and family nightmare were used by newspapers and magazines. To the public, it was a hard story to understand. How could a respected Hollywood icon be in fear for her life in her own home? The public reaction was a mix of sympathy and curiosity. Many people felt deep compassion for Katherine, who now seemed like a victim of something nobody could have expected. At the same time, others were fascinated by how such a disturbing event could happen in the life of someone who seemed to have it all. The story brought out intense curiosity about the private lives of celebrities. People wondered, what had gone so wrong behind the scenes to lead to such violence? The attack and restraining order also opened up wider conversations about domestic violence in families that don't fit the usual patterns seen in the news. This wasn't a case of violence between strangers or unrelated people. This was mother and daughter. It reminded many people that domestic violence can happen in any family, regardless of wealth, fame, or status. Katherine Ross's calm, dignified public image made the entire incident even more shocking to many people. For decades, she had appeared graceful, thoughtful, and private. Seeing her name connected to violence and restraining orders felt strange for those who admired her work. It was a painful reminder that fame doesn't protect people from personal pain or family struggles. While the restraining order gave Katherine legal protection, it didn't erase the emotional damage or the heartbreak that came with it. The emotional scars were deep, and the public could only guess at how difficult it must have been for her to go through that trauma so publicly. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into Hollywood's hidden stories.